Welcome to the Loyolan Opinion Section's Roundtable for April 12th. Today my guests are Assistant Opinion Editor Joe Demas and Senior Editor John Wilkinson. Today we'll be discussing Ivy League Greek life and recent reports of hazing at Dartmouth College's Sigma Alpha Epsilon, as detailed in a recent Rolling Stone article. So my first question is, how do you think Dartmouth College's Greek life compares to LMU's?
Well, I'll start, but I think it's incredibly different. First of all, LMU has a fairly unique system, and especially I think there's just a difference in culture, West Coast to East Coast, Ivy League to non-Ivy League. And also, one thing that really stood out to me when I read the article is that more than half of their fraternities are what they call local, where they're not affiliated with a national chapter, which really localizes the problem to just there. They're not chapters that are run by a national office like all the fraternities on campus here are. So I think that really makes a big difference. And then obviously housing and having housed chapters definitely centralizes things. That is an issue that LMU doesn't have.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with all the general points John's made. One of my friends who goes to Dartmouth, who turned me on to the story like in January, is in one of the local fraternities at Dartmouth, and they're a lot more, they take hazing, I would say, it's more open and more of an accepted thing within their fraternity culture than it is here, just because not only do the local fraternities make it sort of hard to police that, but I think it is just sort of the East Coast, West Coast mentality. But the thing is also Sigma Alpha Epsilon is a national chapter, which is a little bit more problematic in that sense, because if that's the case, then if the administration there is going to be policing certain fraternities more than the others, then it would seem only more natural that they would police the national chapters because they have a wider reach, although they should be policing all of them equally. But
So with Andrew Losi, who came out with the story and reported all of the hazing that he experienced and was a part of, what do you think the responsibility of activism, or what responsibility do activism pledges have in reporting these activities, and should they be voicing their concerns that they have about the pledging process?
Just to even put it more generally, I think people who are going out to rush on a personal level should be asking themselves, if there is hazing going on in fraternities, because it is a lot more well known at Dartmouth. At least there, it's sort of like a don't ask, don't tell kind of policy. It's known, but you don't really talk about it. If they're going to rush for a fraternity, people have to ask themselves, am I going to be willing to put myself in a situation where I have to, either accept that this is part of the culture and just go with it, or do I want to either not participate in it at all, or, be that 1% who decides to take a stand against it. And then I think if pledges have any responsibility at all, yeah, it is to maintain their personal integrity, and to, if they don't want to be hazed, either just say, they want to decline the sort of activities and bring it up within the fraternity itself. I think bringing it up only with the administration is a problem, because that can bring in a lot of other outside sources and just cause the fraternity as a whole to have a lot of conflict, and it just doesn't look good, not only to your pledge brothers, but to actors in general, that you can't, come to them and talk to these things. And then actors obviously have the responsibility of trying to keep that sort of behavior down to a minimum.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree. You kind of talked about how it's much more known, that, it's fairly open at Dartmouth. I mean, now it's obviously everywhere, being reported in Rolling Stone, but, there's, when you're going into this process, is at Dartmouth, people know that, things like that are probably going to happen, and so you almost know what you're signing up for in that sense, and a lot of people choose to go through these things, which is, to me, like, reprehensible. And I think that's, and at LMU, we have no hazing policies, and we know that things like that aren't going to happen to you. And I think that that's where the responsibility comes in, is if you're not getting in your first semester, whether most fraternities have pledges, or where we have our balanced man program, in your first semester or any semester, if you don't think you're getting what you signed up for when you came out to Rush, that's where like voicing your opinion comes up. And I think that's why, you know, they talk about in the article is so many years of this going on and no one ever saying anything, or very rarely saying anything, is because a lot of kids who go through it know that this is what they're signing up for to get where they want to be. And I think that that's one of the things is that all these people have decided that that's what they're doing. And I think that's also with the LMU system, why if you talk to a lot of people at LMU, myself included, and I know other people who never would have thought of joining a fraternity until they got to LMU, and then you get here and you start to meet some of the people and meet the organizations, and you realize that it's not what you always thought it was out here. And I think that goes back to the systematic differences between here and there. Is there people know that that's what they're getting into, and that's why people don't speak up. It's because they've accepted it. And then here, a lot of people who wouldn't put themselves through those things choose to join Greek life because LMU has a different system.
Yeah, I don't think it's just a Dartmouth problem. I think
No.
In a lot of fraternities, whether it's even on the West Coast or in the Midwest, or especially in the East Coast, hazing is just seen as part of, you know, what you do in going into a fraternity. I mean, there are a lot of chapters and fraternities that have programs like the Balanced Man program or similar ones. I know Lambda Chi has a similar program. Sigma Alpha Epsilon even has a similar program to that. There's a lot of different fraternities who have opted to go out of the pledging process. But yeah, I mean, that's the one sentence I think in the entire article that pretty much sums it up for Lowe's position, is that if you don't want to get hazed, don't go out to Rush.
Yeah, and I think that is something that like definitely sets it apart, is that you realize that these people have chosen to do this, and it's like terrifying coming from a perspective of here where like so many things like that don't happen. And yeah, it's crazy that that's what people think they're signing up for when they come out to Greek life, when I don't know, LMU has such a, I don't know, something that's so different than that.
So when LMU's Greek life is so much more successful than, I guess, Dartmouth, do you think that we could expand or like have more fraternity chapters, more sorority chapters in the program?
Well, I mean that is like a big administrative thing. Is I know that they have certain amounts that they want on campus to keep the balance in a certain way, and you know they don't want fraternity life to be too much or too little, and sorority life or Greek life to be too much or too little of the campus atmosphere. And they have a balance that they want to keep, and they don't want to overexpand, and they don't. And so I think they're kind of happy with where they are, and they're
Or do you think we should have more?
I think we could expand in both Greek and or fraternity and sorority life and service org communities. I think just because those ones are so much, they're a lot smaller and they are really actually just LMU centric. I think expanding service organizations and fraternities and sororities would be a beneficial thing, because they both ultimately try to serve the same purpose of creating a wider community for students to have a social life and to develop as people. So I don't think it's I just don't think it's a big deal to expand.
Yeah, I mean I agree. There's never you can never have too many things for people to get involved in. If people want to choose an organization to make their time here better and enrich their lives, there should be enough opportunities for them to find the right organization.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have. So on behalf of the Loyolan, thank you guys for being here. And for more from the opinion section, check out our edition on newsstands now, and visit our website anytime at laloyolan.com.